Your grocery store is charging you $4 for a pint of blueberries that your kitchen windowsill could grow for free. Not someday. Right now, in a pot, under a grow light or a south-facing window, in an apartment, a house, a spare bedroom, 15 fruit-producing plants will thrive and feed you indoors if you give them the right conditions. Most people do not know this because the nursery industry profits from selling outdoor trees that require land you do not have. The plants on this list fruit faster, smaller, and more willingly than almost anything in an outdoor garden. Stick with me through all 15, because number 7 produces fruit every single week of the year with almost no effort. Number 11 will shock you because most people have only ever seen it as a decorative houseplant and had no idea it was edible. And the last one on the list has been growing in Mediterranean kitchens for 2,000 years and somehow never made it to the rest of the world. Let us go. Number 1, strawberries. This is the entry point, and it earns its place at the top because it is the fastest path from pot to plate of anything on this list. A strawberry plant purchased from a nursery will produce fruit within 6 to 8 weeks of being established indoors. It asks for a pot at least 8 inches wide, a sunny windowsill or grow light providing at least 6 hours of bright light per day, consistent moisture without waterlogging, and that is essentially the entire requirement. The everbearing varieties, Albion, Seascape, Quinoa, are the ones you want for indoor growing because they produce fruit continuously through multiple flushes rather than one single seasonal harvest. A single everbearing plant in a pot gives you a steady handful of berries every few weeks throughout the year. 6 plants in a hanging planter or a tiered tower provide a genuine ongoing supply. Strawberries also propagate themselves constantly by sending out runners, horizontal. Stems that produce baby plants at their tips. Pot those runners and you have free new plants indefinitely. One $10 plant from the nursery becomes a self-replicating supply chain. Number 2, dwarf lemon. This is the indoor citrus that actually works. And the distinction matters because most citrus fails indoors simply because people buy the wrong variety. A standard lemon tree grows 20 feet tall and sulks in any pot smaller than a bathtub. A dwarf Meyer lemon, specifically the grafted dwarf form sold as improved Meyer lemon, grows to 3 or 4 feet in a container, adapts to indoor conditions better than virtually any other citrus, and produces full-sized fruit almost continuously when given a south or west-facing window and occasional fertilizer. The Meyer lemon is a hybrid between a lemon and a mandarin orange, and the fruit is slightly sweeter and thinner skinned than a standard lemon. Better for cooking, better for drinks, better eaten out of hand. These trees self-pollinate so you only need one. They drop flower buds if the air is too dry, the most common indoor failure mode, and a small humidifier nearby or a pebble tray with water under the pot solves that completely. A well-maintained dwarf Meyer lemon in a bright window is genuinely one of the most satisfying plants you can grow indoors. Number 3, fig. The fig is one of the oldest cultivated fruit trees on Earth. Humans were growing figs in the Jordan Valley over 11,000 years ago, predating the cultivation of wheat. It is also one of the most willing indoor container plants available, and almost nobody grows it that way because it looks like an outdoor tree. It is not. The variety you want is Petite Negra, a naturally compact fig that stays under 3 or 4 feet in a container, produces small but intensely flavorful dark purple figs, and tolerates the fluctuating temperatures of indoor environments. Figs want as much direct sun as you can give them, and they want to be slightly root-bound, resist repotting too frequently because a cramped root system tells the plant to focus energy on fruit rather than leaves and stems. They go partially dormant in winter, lose their leaves, and come roaring back in spring with 2 potential crops. Fresh figs from your own plant are categorically different from anything in a grocery store. They are one of the few fruits that does not travel well and is almost never sold at peak ripeness. Number 4, dwarf banana. This one surprises people, and it absolutely should. The dwarf varieties, specifically dwarf Cavendish and super dwarf Cavendish, top out at 4 to 6 feet indoors, making them manageable in a living room or sunroom. A banana plant does not fruit from a permanent tree. It grows from a rhizome, sends up a single stem, fruits once from that stem, and then the stem dies while producing offshoots called pups that continue the cycle. A single rhizome indoors can produce fruit in 1 to 2 years with enough light and warmth. It needs a large pot, at least 15 to 20 gallons, a warm room that stays above 55 degrees, and as much bright light as you can give it. The fruit is exactly the banana you know from the store, just smaller and noticeably more flavorful because it ripens on the plant instead of in a shipping container. This is not a beginner plant, but it is not complicated. It needs space, warmth, light, and patience. Number 5, dwarf pomegranate. The pomegranate has been cultivated around the Mediterranean and Middle East for at least 4,000 years and was considered a symbol of abundance in virtually every ancient culture that encountered it. The Egyptians buried their dead with pomegranates. The Greeks wove them into mythology. The Persians used them medicinally for centuries before modern science confirmed that pomegranate juice measurably reduces oxidative stress and inflammation. The dwarf variety for indoor growing, Punica granatum nana, stays under 3 feet, produces brilliant orange-red flowers that are ornamentally stunning even before fruit appears, and fruits reliably in a container with a south-facing window and moderate fertilizer. It tolerates dry indoor air better than most plants on this list, is drought-tolerant once established, and will live for decades in the same pot, improving in production every year as the plant matures. Number 6, passion fruit. This one requires a trellis and at least one south-facing window dedicated entirely to a vine that will attempt to take over the room. Passion fruit grows as an aggressive climber, and indoors that means it needs something to climb. A frame, a series of hooks along a wall, and once it has that, it rewards you with one of the most extraordinary fruits you can grow at home. The flowers alone justify the space. Passion flower blooms are among the most architecturally complex flowers in the plant kingdom. Layered. Petals, radiating filaments, dramatically visible reproductive structures that look engineered rather than grown. The fruit that follows is a wrinkled shell containing seeds surrounded by a tart, intensely aromatic pulp that is the base of passion fruit juice globally. Indoors, Passiflora edulis performs best with bright light and a large container. It self-pollinates in most cases, though gently shaking the flowers or using a small brush to transfer pollen between blooms improves fruit set significantly. This is a commitment plant, but it is a spectacular one. Number 7, dwarf cherry tomato. Before you say tomatoes are not fruit, they are botanically. And before you say you already know about growing tomatoes, you probably do not know about Tumbling Tom, Red Robin, Tiny Tim, or Micro Tom. These genuinely dwarf cherry tomato varieties stay under 12 inches tall, require no staking, produce prolifically in a 6-inch pot on a windowsill, and fruit continuously from planting to the day you let them dry out. Continuously. Not seasonally, not in one flush. If you keep the soil consistently moist, the light consistent, and feed with diluted liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks, a dwarf cherry tomato on a windowsill produces fruit every single week of the year. A 4-pack of starts from a garden center costs about $4. Within 6 to 8 weeks, you are harvesting. This is the most accessible, fastest, most consistently productive edible plant available for indoor growing, and the fact that it is not on every apartment windowsill in North America is a failure of awareness rather than a failure of the plant. Number 8, kumquat. The kumquat is the citrus fruit designed to be eaten whole, skin and all, which makes it unlike anything else in the family. The skin is sweet, the flesh inside is sour. The contrast is extraordinary, and the flavor is complex in a way that grocery store citrus almost never achieves because kumquats bruise easily and are nearly impossible to ship in volume. The Nagami variety is the most compact and most reliably productive indoors, a small shrub up to 4 feet in a container, producing ornamental orange fruit about the size of a large olive. Unlike most citrus, kumquats handle low humidity well and can fruit with only 3 to 4 hours of direct light per day from an east or west-facing window. One plant. No companion required. Ongoing fruit from a container smaller than most desk chairs. Number 9, mulberry. The Issai mulberry is a self-fruiting dwarf variety developed specifically for container growing and one of the most underplanted edible plants available for indoor spaces. Standard mulberry trees grow 30 to 50 feet tall. Issai tops out at 3 to 5 feet in a large pot, produces long, dark purple-black fruit, similar to a blackberry but more complex, and begins fruiting in its first year, sometimes within months of planting. Mulberries do not travel commercially because they rupture almost immediately when picked and stain everything they touch. This means fresh mulberries are something almost no one who does not grow them has ever tasted at peak quality. They are extraordinary. The Issai variety is also self-pollinating, cold-tolerant indoors, and dramatically productive once established. Give it a large container, bright light, and consistent water, and it will produce for decades. Number 10, dwarf avocado, the honest one on the list. A full-sized avocado tree takes 7 to 15 years to fruit from seed and grows 20 feet tall. That is not what you are growing. A dwarf grafted variety, specifically the day avocado, stays under 6 feet in a large container and can fruit in 3 to 5 years from a grafted plant. This is still the longest wait on the list, and it is worth being clear about that. But a tree-ripened avocado is so categorically different from the shipped product that people consistently describe tasting their First one as disorienting. Grocery store avocados are picked hard and ripened with ethylene gas in transit. A tree-ripened avocado is buttery, nutty, and almost creamy in a way the store product never achieves. This one requires patience. Everything else on this list is worth it while you wait. Number 11. Goji Berry. Most people have only ever seen this as a dried supplement ingredient in a health food store. A wrinkled red berry sold by the ounce at a price that implies it requires ancient Himalayan conditions to grow. It does not. Goji berries is a naturally compact shrub that grows readily in containers, tolerates a wide range of light conditions, produces prolifically once established, and handles indoor temperature variation without complaint. The fresh berry is completely different from the dried version. Fresh goji is mild, slightly sweet, slightly bitter, somewhere between a tomato and a cranberry. The plant produces bright orange-red berries in clusters along arching branches and can deliver several harvests per year indoors. It is one of the most antioxidant-dense foods measurable by any standard, and it grows on a shrub in a pot in your living room. The disconnect between that reality and what people pay for a small bag of dried ones at the grocery store is genuinely remarkable. Number 12. Dwarf Blueberry. Standard blueberry bushes require specific soil pH, cross-pollination with a companion plant, and 4 to 6 years to reach peak production. The dwarf container varieties, Sunshine Blue, Top Hat, and Peach Sorbet, eliminate almost all of those requirements. They stay under 2 feet tall, are self-pollinating so one plant is sufficient, and produce full-sized berries with the same nutritional profile and flavor as outdoor bushes. They require acidic soil, a pH between 4 and 5, maintained with potting mix formulated for acid-loving plants and fertilizer, designed for blueberries or azaleas. They go partially dormant in winter, which is actually beneficial. Give them a cool spot and reduced water for 2 to 3 months, and they return more vigorously in spring. A $4 plant from a garden center becomes a decade-long fruit producer. Number 13, pineapple. A pineapple plant from the top of a pineapple you bought at the grocery store. This sounds like one of those social media tricks that does not work. It works. Cut the crown off a fresh pineapple, strip the lower leaves to expose an inch of the stalk, let it dry for a day or two, and plant it in well-draining potting mix in the brightest window you have. It will root over several weeks and begin growing. A pineapple plant takes 18 months to 3 years to fruit from a crown start, but it requires almost no intervention during that time. To trigger fruiting, place a ripe apple in the center of the plant and seal a plastic bag over the whole thing for a week. The apple releases ethylene gas, the same compound commercial. Producers use to trigger flowering in pineapple crops at industrial scale. This is a documented agricultural technique applied at home. One pineapple from the grocery store becomes a free plant that produces another pineapple in your living room. Number 14. Dwarf olive. The olive tree has been cultivated around the Mediterranean for over 6,000 years. Some individual olive trees currently producing fruit in Greece and Italy are estimated to be over 1,000 years old. The dwarf variety for container growing, Arbequina, can be maintained as a shrub under 4 feet in a pot and will produce curable olives indoors with a bright window and minimal care. Olives fresh off the tree are intensely bitter and require curing and brine to become what you recognize, but the curing process is straightforward, and the result is a genuine product from a plant you grew at home. Dwarf olives are among the most drought-tolerant plants on this list. They prefer to dry out between waterings and will rot if overwatered. In terms of neglect tolerance, they are nearly unmatched. A $15 to $20 plant from a specialty nursery will produce for decades. Number 15, Dwarf Pomelo. This is the one that has been growing in Chinese and Southeast Asian kitchen gardens for 2,000 years and has somehow never crossed into mainstream Western indoor growing culture, despite being genuinely perfect for it. The pomelo is the ancestor of the grapefruit. Larger, thicker-skinned, less bitter, with a sweetness and complexity the grapefruit lost in hybridization. Dwarf varieties are available from specialty citrus nurseries, and they behave similarly to dwarf Meyer lemon indoors. Bright light, occasional fertilizer, a bit of extra humidity. The fruit is extraordinary. Most people who taste a tree-ripened pomelo for the first time have never actually tasted one before, because the shipped versions in Western grocery stores are a pale approximation of what the plant actually produces when grown with care and harvested at peak ripeness. That is the pattern across everything on this list, and it is the most compelling argument for growing your own. 15 plants, every one of them producible in a pot, in a house, without land and without a yard. Some fruit within weeks, some fruit for decades. All of them produce something better than what you're buying at the store, because what the store sells was selected for shipping durability, not for flavor. The fruit that tastes best is almost always the fruit that travels worst. A window and a decision to start is all this takes. Hope you learned something today. See you in the next one.